We're hearing both oscillator 1 and 2, and they are both sawtooth waves. So let's go ahead and make it a little bit softer, a little more dull. So what I'm going to do first is come over here to my cutoff filter, and I'm going to turn it down just a hair. Okay, now what I'm going to do is take my amplifier envelope, and I'm going to make the attack a little bit longer. I'm going to take the sustain, and I'm going to bring it down about half, and take the decay and make it quite long. And I'm going to add some release, so we get something similar to that. Now, what I'm going to do is it feels a little too static, meaning there's no real change throughout the time from the note on to the note off. So let's fix that. On our LFO section, I'm going to go ahead and select LFO 1, and I'm going to come down until I find pulse width. Now I wish you could see it on the camera, but you can't. But there's a knob here that now says how much pulse width do I want to add to my waveform. Well, I want to bring it up to about 53%. In order for this to work now, I really need to bring my oscillator 1 over to a square wave. Because in sawtooth, it doesn't work. So we'll bring it over to square. Now we're already getting somewhere, which is great, but I want to back off the pulse width just a little bit more. It's a little too much. Still, it seems a little low as far as tone-wise. So let me go oscillator 2 and my semitone knob, and I'm going to go ahead and bring oscillator 2 up a fifth, so plus 7 semitones. Now that really gave it a whole different character. Right? So we're getting somewhere. Now, to give the frequencies more movement, I'm going to go ahead and add envelope amount to my filter cutoff. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my filter cutoff down to about 10 o'clock. Now I'm going to add some envelope modulation. Now that's pretty fast, so let's go ahead and make the decay of the filter envelope quite long and the attack quite long as well. That sounds pretty good, but I think I still want maybe to back off the envelope a little bit and give the filter envelope a little bit of release. That sounds pretty good. How about I take advantage of the analog modeling filters? So I'm going to hit Shift, Filter 1, and I'm going to bring up a 1-pole analog filter. Now the great thing about the Axis virus is that it has 2 filters. So what I'm going to do is take the cutoff of filter 2, and I'm going to offset that from filter 1 plus 15. I'm going to select filter 2 by hitting its selector knob or button, and I'm going to add some resonance. Now I'm just going to play to taste cutoff 2. Select filter 1, add some resonance. Now you can really hear the separation of the two filter cutoff points. That's pretty neat. So let's back off the resonance a little. Filter 2, back that off just a hair. And something I've kind of learned is that by making filter number 2 a band stop filter or a band reject filter or a notch filter, you get this really cool full and then hollow sound. It almost has a sort of saturation type sound to it. Now, the more resonance you give the band stop or the notch filter, the tighter that notch gets, which means the less you're going to hear it. So in some cases, you want to have no resonance at all. Great. Now there are a couple other things that we can do. So we can detune oscillator 1 from 2. That's pretty cool. Now what I like to do though is go ahead and take oscillator or LFO 1 and do oscillator 1 pitch and vary it just a tiny bit from oscillator 2. Now I'm still getting a little bit too much kind of crunchy, distorted sound, so I'm going to go ahead and make the filter cutoff of 1. I'm going to make that an analog 4-pole. That's pretty cool. I just added a little bit of sub oscillator into there. Now let's try something. Let's go ahead and put a reverb with some dampening. Let's go ahead and add maybe a subtle delay to it. And we'll make the delay time about 207 milliseconds for good measure with 39% of feedback. Got to be careful with chords if you were having your oscillator 2 on a perfect fifth, because it can tend to get a little mushy. So in this case, let's try to bring oscillator 2 down, or no, let's bring it up an octave from oscillator 1, see what that sounds like. Not bad. So there you go. That's a basic pad. It involves 2 oscillators, the sub-octave oscillator. Oscillator 2 is raised an octave above oscillator 1. Oscillator 2 is a sawtooth wave. Oscillator 1 is a square wave we have two filters. The first filter being an analog 4-pole, the second filter being a notch filter with no resonance. We have a very long filter envelope, and we have a very long amplifier envelope. Both of them have quite a bit of release on them. We have a dabble of delay and a touch of reverb, and that is your basic patch with some LFO modulation, modulating the pulse width, as well as the oscillator 1 from 2, and a little bit of oscillator detune in there as well. That's your basic patch. Thanks for watching.